We are now going to hear our next session about AI in governance, promise, practicalities, and path forward, co-hosted by Samagra. First, I would like to welcome Gaurav Goel, founder and CEO of Samagra, to deliver an opening address.
No, it's fine. So okay. Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The idea of this 10-minute brief talk is to just set up the panel, set up the session. For those of you who are not fully aware about Samagra, quickly, we were set up in 2012 with the core thesis of better governance as a lever to create large-scale impact, primarily focused on working with state governments across India on system reforms, deep systemic transformations across domains, school education, agriculture, healthcare, skilling and employment, financial inclusion, benefit delivery, and so on. We also have something called Samagra X. That's the umbrella under which we do all our GovTech and DataGov work. And that's led by my colleague Rahul Kulkarni, who's our chief technologist. He'll be moderating the panel today. And as part of Samagra X, we do largely two things to support our system reform work with the states. One, all the products and platforms that are getting built in these states as part of our work, we do the thinking through, the designing, the architecture of it, and oversee the development of it through the government IT teams and IT vendors. And second is to really leverage the latest advancements in tech to push the envelope in the states and the domains that we're working in. So those are the two ways in which Samagra X supports the state transformation work. And the focus over the last 18 months as part of Samagra X has been AI in governance, and that's the topic for today's panel. So we internally have this, we've set up this mission, which we are calling the gov.ai mission, through which we want to drive at-scale use cases of AI and governance in India over the next decade. But before that, if I were to just step back and say, if you talk about AI and governance, there are three ways one can look at it, right? One is AI as an internal productivity tool in the government, right? So things like how do you meeting minutes or even synthesizing a file, a big fat government file into kind of a couple of paragraphs. So a lot of these things can be done where AI is just enhancing the efficiency of those working inside the government. That's one part. We are not going to spend a lot of time on that today. The second is what you can call AI for impact, which is really citizen-facing use cases of AI, either delivered directly to the citizens or in an assisted mode through a frontline government worker. Could be a teacher, could be a ASHA worker, could be an agriculture extension worker, and so on and so forth. So that's the second kind of dimension of AI and governance, and that's what we are going to really double click on today. And the third, which is also very important and interesting, is AI for economic growth. And this is something that we are seeing of late, that governments are recognizing the power of AI in the economic development of the states. And that's something I'm going to very briefly touch upon in the end. But let's double click on this AI for impact or citizen-facing use cases. And as part of this is what I was saying, that we are internally at Samagra on this mission to drive at-scale use cases of AI and governance in India over the next decade, which we are calling the gov.ai mission. Our journey actually started 18 months back when GPT became real, and we have Pragya here from OpenAI representing the organization. But that's when we started seriously thinking about AI. It existed for a long time, but that was a moment of truth, so to say. And we said, how can we use the latest advancements across the world that are happening in AI to solve for real needs of our citizens, of our users on the ground? So it was a very backwards from use case kind of approach that we took. And as part of that, the multiple things that we've done, let me give you some glimpses of it over the last 18 months. The first one here is something that we call Krishi Sahayak. Think of it as a farmer being able to ask any query around pricing, around seeds, around fertilizers, around schemes, around practices, around weather, etc., in the natural language through a bot, and it gets the most relevant and correct answer in the same language. That's what the Krishi Sahayak really is. Instance of it has been made live by the Odisha government. It's called Ama Krushi AI. And then an instance of it was made live by the UP government last year called Kisan Mitra AI. Another thing that we've been up to is what we call Jan Sahayak. Think of it again as a citizen being able to ask any query around any scheme or service from the government. What's the eligibility criteria? What's the status of my application? When will I get my next tranche? And so on and so forth. Being able to do that naturally in the natural language and getting a precise response there. One instance of it is live in the Government of India. It's called the Kisan e-Mitra bot, where in 10 Indian languages, any beneficiary can ask any query around the PM Kisan scheme and get the relevant answer. Since the time it was launched, seen around 80 lakh odd queries with the Government of India. Another example is something called Nipun Sahayak. It's like a FLN, Foundational Literacy and Numeracy Copilot. Instance of that, this is live in Uttar Pradesh. It's called Nipun Lakshya app. Think of that as a thermometer you administer on a student. A teacher administers it on a student for 3 to 5 minutes, and you get to know whether the student is Nipun or not, whether the student is foundational literacy and numeracy competent or not. Key metric there is what's called oral reading fluency, how many correct words per minute the student is able to read. This is again live at scale. We are seeing more than 50 lakh odd assessments happen every month, month on month, as part of the Nipun Lakshya app. The fourth is an interesting one that we've just embarked on, and we're calling it the Kumbh Sahayak. So we have the Mahakumbh that happens after 12 years. That'll happen in Prayagraj next year from Jan to March. And more than 20 crore people are expected at the Mahakumbh from all across the country, all across the world. The idea is to provide an experience where they can ask any query with regards to the Kumbh Mela and they get the response in their own language. Right? So these are some instances. Let me give you a quick kind of glimpse into one of these, which is Krishi Sahayak, and the UP instance of it, which is called Kisan Mitra AI. We'll look at this short video and then I'll continue post that. Volume.
माननीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के करकमलों द्वारा किसान मित्र एआई चैटबॉट का अनावरण किया जा रहा है।
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का उपयोग किसान मित्र के रूप में ऐप के माध्यम से कैसे किया जा सकता है, यहाँ एक एप्लीकेशन हम लोगों ने भी यहाँ पे लॉन्च किया है, यानी किसान की हर क्वेरीज का जवाब केवल उसके स्मार्टफोन से ही प्राप्त होगा।
इस चैटबॉट का आप 3 आसान कदमों में प्रयोग कर सकते हैं। पहला, अपने फोन के ब्राउजर पर किसान मित्रा up.ai टाइप करके किसान मित्र एआई चैटबॉट को खोलें। दूसरा, माइक बटन पर एक बार टैप करके आप अपना कृषि संबंधी सवाल सीधा हिंदी या अंग्रेजी में बोलकर पूछ सकते हैं।
जीवामृत को कैसे बनाया जा सकता है?
चैटबॉट द्वारा दिए गए उत्तर को आप ये बटन दबाकर सुन भी सकते हैं।
जीवमृता एक प्राकृतिक जैविक उर्वरक है जिसे सरल अवयवों का उपयोग करके बनाया जा सकता है।
ऐसे ही पूरा विवरण सुना जा सकता है। आप अनुवर्ती प्रश्न बोल के या टेक्स्ट बॉक्स में इस तरह टाइप करके भी पूछ सकते हैं। तीसरा, चैटबॉट द्वारा दी गई सलाह या उत्तर आप अन्य किसानों के साथ बांटने के लिए डाउनलोड या शेयर बटन का प्रयोग करें। प्रथम चरण में ये चैटबॉट मूल रूप से उत्तर प्रदेश के सभी कृषि तकनीकी सहायकों के लिए उपलब्ध होगा। अगले 3 महीने में किसान मित्र चैटबॉट को उत्तर प्रदेश के सभी किसानों के लिए लॉन्च कर पाएगी।
At Samagra, one thing we strongly believe in is that when launches happen, it's only half the job done. Sometimes not even that. The real work starts after that. But when it comes to AI use cases, I can say, and it's been a learning over the last 12 to 18 months, it's like 20% job done when the launch happens. The real journey starts after the launch, when you're trying to make the thing relevant and useful for the user. It's one thing to do pilots and POC. It's a very different thing in the world of AI to do things at scale where you're getting the relevant answer for the user. And that's what we have learned the hard way over the last 12 to 15 months. I can tell you when we started and did some of these the initial pilots, then we used to get a thumbs up rating from the user, which was of the order of 20%. Right? Only 20% answers are actually useful for the user. But then over a period of time, now some of these things are at a place where they're kind of getting 90% thumbs up rating. And that's been the learning curve. And it's difficult to share all of it. Let me give you glimpses of what the kind of learnings have been. One is just domain specific dictionaries. Right? Every context, every state, every domain has very specific terms which one needs to understand to be able to just even interpret what is being said by the user. Right? And that's something that's gotten built over a period of time with the help of experts in the domains and the states that we're working in. And that's been one big change, one big learning. The second one has been just understanding the intent of the user. It's not that our users are giving very well kind of created, articulated questions or prompts, and you can kind of do the tech jugglery behind it to get the answer. They're just saying a phrase. And then it's almost an interrogation or a cross-questioning that has to happen to get to the real intent of the user. And that's been the other learning coming. For that, what we need are knowledge graphs to say, okay, this is coming, then ask this probabilistically, or ask this. And after 2-3 questions, you really get to what the user really wants, right? Another thing is just organizing state's own content. Throwing something as a large language model will give very generic answers a lot of times. So there needs to be that expert state database in the middle. And state information is lying in different formats. Something is in PDF, something is in scanned documents, something is in properly structured databases. So how do you really organize all of that? And that becomes the first port of call before you even use a AI tool subsequently. The other thing is traceability. In government, when we are giving specific responses to the users, we have to be able to trace it to a source. Right? You cannot just say that some model hallucinated and therefore the answer is what it is. So that traceability becomes important, and therefore the need to kind of have that audit trail almost built in as part of the tech that is there. And another one is concurrency. Again, pilots are fine when things happen at scale. Then how do you optimize the GPU usage? How do you optimize the compute, etc. becomes very, very relevant. So these are some just glimpses, and Rahul will talk about more as part of the panel. There's been a huge learning curve, as I said, over the last 12 months here. And all of these learnings we've tried to kind of capture and make part of this DPG, which we are calling the Bharat Sahayak, which is a kind of a horizontal platform, and every use case that we are seeing is just an instantiation of this, and then a learning curve on top of it. Right? So, and even the Kumbh Sahayak, which will come up for next year's Kumbh, will be an instance of this, and then of course will have its own training and so on. So that's in terms of AI for impact or citizen-facing use cases of AI. Very quickly, in 1 minute, touch upon the third part, which is AI for economic growth. We have the India AI mission, which has been very well conceptualized. These are the different 7 pillars of it, the budget allocation for it. And we have Mr. Abhishek Singh here, who's leading the mission, who's trying to operationalize and ground the mission. So the vision has been put out, but now it has to be kind of implemented on ground, and that's what he and his team are up to. So that's one. But what is very interesting to see over the last couple of months is states are really come to realize the importance of this and seeing AI as a lever for economic growth. So we've seen a lot of conversations with at least 4-5 different states saying, okay, what can we do to both ground the India or land the India AI mission well in the state, but also use that as a lever for growth. Right? And some one small example, right? Just data annotation. The data sets is one of the things in the India AI mission. A state, if with the right policies, with the right kind of initiatives, can become a hub for data annotation. It can be an industry that can come up in the state if just the cards are played well. Right? So that is something that's, and these are some of the things that can happen through AI for a state. And one of the states that's actually taking the lead in this is Telangana. Telangana has already been doing a bunch of things on AI, and now early September 5th and 6th, they're organizing the Global AI Summit. And that's where the roadmap will be unveiled for the state of Telangana. And we have Mr. Jayesh Ranjan here, who's the Special Chief Secretary, looks at IT and looks at AI in the state. And he and his team are working kind of overnight to really put together a roadmap for AI for Telangana. And we in our own small way are having the opportunity to contribute to that as well. So those are the 3 kind of things to look at. AI as an internal productivity tool in government. Second, AI, citizen-facing AI use cases. AI for impact. And third is AI for economic growth, which is an opportunity for the states to really kind of work and become an AI hub, the AI capital, so to say. So with this, I'll close my remarks, and I'll hand over to Rahul, our Chief Technologist, and he'll take forward the panel, introduce all the panelists, and take forward the discussions. Over to you, Rahul.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's indeed my pleasure and honor to be able to welcome 4 stalwarts, 2 from the government and 2 from the industry, for today's panel. First off, let me introduce you to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, 1992 batch IS officer of Telangana cadre, currently serving as Special Chief Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology at the Government of Telangana. Mr. Ranjan needs no introduction in the space of AI. He's been one of those foremost supporters and proponents of AI within the state, and previously held variety of roles as Commissioner MD of Industries Department, Tourism Promotion Department, Vice Chairman of Hyderabad Urban Development Authority, and now he is actually taking all of those learnings and implementing it across state, crafting a whole journey for Telangana there. I also love to introduce Mr. Abhishek Singh. Abhishek Singh is a career servant with 29 years of experience in governance and policy formulation. His specialty is technology and governance. So if you think of anybody who understands technology in the government, it's Abhishek ji we go to. And he's presently posted as Additional Secretary at METI, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology at the Government of India. And he has very key responsibilities of artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, cyber security, and digital skilling. These are really the foundations with which India is being built as we speak. And he has previously served as CEO Karma Yogi Bharat and CEO NEGD, DIC, and MyGov in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Then I'd love to introduce two of the industry stalwarts. First off, Ms. Pragya Misra. Pragya is the Public Policy and Partnerships Lead at OpenAI and has 16 years of experience in the private sector focusing on innovation and cutting-edge technologies. As OpenAI's first hire in India, until 6 months ago, we were trying to figure out, who leads OpenAI in India. And finally, we have a name, Pragya is leading the charge there, is there to forward the OpenAI values of safety, transparency, human-centric innovation. And previously, I don't know how many of you know, but Pragya comes from being able to take things to scale. Previously, Pragya served as a Director of Public Affairs as Truecaller. And most of India uses Truecaller to figure out who's calling, right? So Pragya seeing that journey. Pragya was also the first hire for India at WhatsApp, where she managed communications. And that was leading WhatsApp's information campaign against misinformation in 2018 and so on. And so we're really thankful for having you here, Pragya. And then I'd like to introduce Metesh, Bhati. Metesh is the Chief Digital Officer at Protean eGov Technologies. So whenever you've tried to apply for a PAN card, gone to the whole support system, gone through the online sites, go through NSDL or anything, or used ONDC. How many of you have ordered something on your Ola app, but food instead of a cab? Metesh is the man behind creating all those technology pieces and making them work at scale across India in the government. Previously, to his role at Protean, Metesh held leadership positions at HDFC Bank, Bajaj Capital, Aditya Birla. So nobody better to know what does it mean to really implement technology at scale in the Indian context. So with this, let me please introduce you and welcome all the panelists to the dais. So it's indeed wonderful to have every one of you here. We are going to have a very free-form discussion and we're going to keep it really conversational. Now, also what you would have is towards somewhere mid-time, we'll have a QR code and I don't know how many of you are going to be able to actually access the internet. So if that happens, we'll just raise hands and ask audience questions. But would love to get some audience questions also since we have a very illustrious panel here. First, I'd like to start with Abhishek ji. Abhishek ji, you have seen, you lead India at G20 with GPay and all of that on the AI side. And you lead India's charge there. You also lead the India AI mission. And so could you give us a glimpse of what is happening on the global stage? When G20 thinks about AI, what does it mean? AI, especially for governance. And when you think of India AI for India, what does that mean in your world?
See, as you might be aware, and this audience would be surely be, is that at the global level, the discourse presently is that's going on, whether it's G20 or the G7 Hiroshima process or the GPay summit or the safety summits that have happened in Bletchley Park in UK last year and this year in Korea and followed by France next February. The major discourse is how do you kind of ensure that whatever AI is being used, being deployed, is done in a responsible and ethical manner? How do we build guardrails for use of AI? And how do we ensure that AI does not result in user harm? So there have been a lot of thought on that, a lot of discourse on that, and there is always a need of the whole world feels the need of having a global consensus on this, because the way AI works, the foundational models might have been developed in some other geography, the use cases in some other geography, and actual users in some other geography. So there is an important need to have a consensus with regard to what kind of guidelines can have. And there also we see a lot of policy differences across the world. Like EU has come up with their EU AI Act, which is a risk-based framework for regulating AI. The US came up with its voluntary commitments and with their executive order last year, which kind of required big tech companies and AI companies to disclose what they are doing, how they are doing. And similarly, India is also trying to work on that to come out with a framework for that. But when you look at India AI mission, when you compare with the global discourse on that, while the global discourse is more focused on regulating the development of AI, in India, we do agree that regulation is required, but that's not our prime focus. Our prime focus is driving innovation, developing use cases for AI, because that's where our strength is. We do have our strength in having a very strong AI skilled workforce, a very vibrant AI startup culture that we have. So we have the potential and the opportunity for creating AI-based solutions and deploying it across the world. So innovation is our prime focus, while at the same time, on the point of view of regulating, we look at it from the point of view of user harm, that any AI-based solution should result in larger public good and not in user harm. So that's the way we are with regard to AI.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, thank you so much, Abhishek ji. That was very insightful, especially the whole thing about us, our focus not being on just trying to figure out the guardrails and all of that. Of course, that will happen, but really driving collaboration to drive innovation. And, next question I would like to direct to Jayesh ji. You have been at the forefront of innovation. The way Abhishek ji mentioned, you need collaboration, you need the whole ecosystem to contribute, you need consensus across this, and who better to describe that than you? You've really done that journey in Hyderabad, in Telangana. So could you give us some examples of success stories? What does it mean to really implement technology using and pushing the boundaries of innovation, and at the same time doing it in an ecosystem friendly way, so it's not like one player just doing everything?
Thank you. So thank you, Rahul. And before I answer, I would also like to thank Nudge, Charcha, Samagra for calling states also to share their views. Any event typically which is hosted in Delhi is overshadowed by people like Abhishek, the ministries, the departments, and it's kind of nice kind of you to invite states also to share their good work. So since you asked me to illustrate using an example, I'll straight away give this example. This was done about 3 years ago. 2020 was celebrated in Telangana. This is much before India AI mission, etc. I keep reminding him. We celebrated 2020 as the year of AI. And obviously when you do something, lots of things precede that. So in 2019 itself, we brought out our AI framework. Our framework had 5 pillars, and it's interesting to see that Government of India mission has 7 pillars. But regardless of that, so one of the pillars was that the government will also walk the talk. I mean, it's very easy to say that we'll create data sets, we'll create compute capacity, and we'll promote innovation, but will you actually show how use cases are being implemented within the government? There are social impact and utility being created. So one very interesting use case which we took was to try out if people can vote remotely. See, as you know, voting does not happen remotely literally anywhere in the world except for a few countries like Estonia. But in our country, voting is also a very tedious process. It's a very harrowing process. You wake up in the morning, you stand in long queues, and occasionally you are turned away because your name is not found. All kinds of hera-feri happens. So we thought whether we can do a remote voting trial, pilot, and obviously we were able to create a solution. With the help of the State Election Commission, we were actually able to demonstrate it in a live election scenario in a town called Khammam. There's a town in Telangana, about 250 kilometers north of Hyderabad. With 3,000 voters, we were able to demonstrate. So as you would know, see, voting in India is a very contentious process. Even now when voting is done through electronic voting machines, they are also criticized. Typically the people who lose the elections, they try to blame that EVM was hacked and all. And I know for sure that nothing of that happens because EVMs are also manufactured in Hyderabad. There's a company called ECIL, and I have been to their facility. I've seen the kind of robustness they have and the checks and balances they have. But that is very common. So in a scenario when EVMs are also blamed and criticized, how do you create a scenario when you are voting remotely, obviously you are at your home, there's no monitoring, no one to check who you are and how you are voting. But how do you ensure that the rigor of that process, the purity of that process is maintained. So there were 3 technologies that we used. One, of course, is to identify you. So with your phone, which obviously is pre-registered as a voting instrument, you take a picture of yourself. The picture is matched with the electoral database, which has photographs. And obviously you would know the pictures will not have lots of similarity, because the electoral database picture might have been taken 2 decades ago, 30 years ago. Lots of changes would have happened. Then the name has to be matched with the photograph. So that facial recognition technology, we were able to bring 97% accuracy using an AI algorithm. And then, of course, the actual process of voting, in which you show that the vote is secure, no one hacks it, that is done through blockchain. So using a combination of technologies, we were able to do that. But I mean, this is not really the answer to your question. The answer was, how do you bring the ecosystem together? So this is how we did. So 6 players came together, they joined hands to create this solution. The first player, of course, is us, because that is how we kind of decided. We showed the intent that we will try this out. The second very important player was a autonomous but a sister government organization, which is the State Election Commission. Eventually, elections, as you know, are having their own regulatory systems. The Election Commission of India, for national elections, the state commissions for state level elections. The technology was provided. The AI solution was actually sourced from a startup. There's a startup in Hyderabad which had shown this solution for an attendance monitoring scenario in schools and colleges. But we asked them to improve, develop better algorithms, train the model better. Then CDAC, as you know, there's a Government of India body, which again has a strong presence in Hyderabad. They provided lots of validation of the algorithms, etc. IIT Bombay was one collaborator. Not IIT Bombay. Professor Munna is from IIT Raipur, isn't it? IIT Gandhinagar. So IIT was one collaborator. The blockchain solution was sourced from Tech Mahindra. So Tech Mahindra, as you know, is a homegrown company in Hyderabad. They have a very strong blockchain practice. And obviously it was implemented in Khambam with the support of the district administration and so on and so forth. So this is how all the AI activities which we have implemented since 2020 go on. There's a role of the government, there's a role of the private sector, there's a role of startups, and then there is a role of academia. Within the government also, we acknowledge that Government of India bodies also have lots of contribution which they can make. So CDAC in this case, and of course the state as a whole. So that is how, in my opinion, brilliant. First of all, it's a very impressive example. Because remote voting is still a remote possibility in our country, right? We have been able to show that it can work. And how do you bring everyone together is a very classic example.
It's a classic example, because generally you think of something as sensitive as voting. You would say, ye to in-house hi karna hai, and only have 2 people working on it and let them be in a closed room without internet access. And here you're making it work with a whole ecosystem. Absolutely brilliant. Great example. Thank you. Mitesh, I'd like to ask you the next one. In terms of, you have visionaries like Abhishek ji, Jayesh ji, and who have these bold, hairy, audacious goals, right? We hear about B-hacks. This is truly a B-hack, right? How do you make these kind of things happen? Now you're on the receiving end of it, right? You get this vision, and now you have to implement it and make PAN work across India, make those centers work. What are the challenges that you see in terms of large-scale adoption of things like these?
So,
and how do you, of course, solve them?
Yeah, sure. So yes, as Protean, we've been doing PAN. So, we handle the database also for verification, distributing of PAN for now, like almost 25 years now. Okay. And National Pension Scheme for all, for the whole country. Now, and as recently we started doing ONDC and stuff other, while we get the mandates from the government, states and others, while implementing the new age technology, the bigger problem is the data quality and the standardization, right? Every state now, as sir was saying, Telangana started 2020 the AI mission. Many states or the center has to catch up, right? So there is varied standardization that needs to meet, right? We have been discussing about RBIs doing farmer loans, standardized. We also did AgriStack for the nation. So we were working with almost 30 plus states, but none of their technology matched, neither their data structures matched, right? So how do you bring a single tech standardized so that banks and the other ecosystem can provide support using that data? And to more so at the policy level, how can we have the consent architecture accepted across the nation and the states, right? So these are the bigger problems that we solve. Tech, I always say tech is the easier one. So tech definitely comes. At the same time, we are still leveraging, technologies like blockchain, AI. How do we ease out the adoption of these products, right? How can AI be made more, AI can make these products more accessible, understandable. Few of the example which Gaurav shared, on the Sahayak platforms that Samagra is working, how NPS can be made explainable to a common citizen, right? Many people don't understand, how these investments work. NPS is one of the safest investment route someone can take, right? So one is at the adoption and the inclusion side, how these technologies can play. At the other end, as Protean, we are also experimenting how AI blockchain can contribute to security and fraud monitoring and fraud reduction, right? A lot of fraud keeps on happening at the transaction level, at NPS, whether it's PAN, verification. How we can have the whole audit trail and AI and blockchain to further streamline these, detection modules and the algos can play that role. That's where we are currently as Protean.
Excellent. I think two key things that you mentioned, right? The whole standardization and the architecture is such a critical part of tech implementation. And then, of course, the fraud detection pieces. Now, this is all from the, the vision level, the implementation level. Next, I'd like to ask you, Pragya, from a citizen adoption point of view, you've seen the life cycle of WhatsApp, Truecaller, and now you're seeing the journey of AI. What is the typical journey that you have seen? What is the typical life cycle of this, especially in India? And how do you see the life cycle of AI evolving in India?
Yeah, no, great question, and such a privilege to be here. So thank you so much. And it's always a lot of exciting stuff whenever I end up interacting with Abhishek ji or Jayesh ji for Telangana, and he's always been at the forefront of a lot of technology adoption in the country. So really happy to be here, and we're doing a lot of work with you, with Samagra. So very excited to be here. And I think in general, with the combination of broadly, I think Indians understanding the value of technology and the real impact that it can unlock for them. And I think we've seen that happen over the last 5, 7, 8 years, right? If you talk about WhatsApp, it was again, the commonality between WhatsApp, Truecaller, and even now OpenAI is that all of them, India has been their largest country in terms of user base. For OpenAI as well, very soon, we're going to get there. We're the second largest, we're growing fairly fast and should get there. And that really speaks to the high internet penetration that we have, the high mobile adoption. We are a mobile first country. And so just very, very easily, we are willing to open our phones up, try new things. And that's what we've also seen with ChatGPT, one of the fastest growing applications in terms of the world, right? We got there, we got 200 million users in like just a few months, where many of the companies who we are talking about take years to get there. Like WhatsApp took 3.5 years to get to their first 100 million. And so I think just it's a lot about timing, but I always feel generally, Indians have been very quick to use these products. And I think what's always very cool is that when I go out and talk to a lot of the users, sitting in Silicon Valley or in the Bay Area, often we think about that this is how our products are going to be used outside. But when you go in and talk to users, they just come up with the most ingenious ideas to use our features, right? And I think in WhatsApp, I can talk about just the voice feature, right? The way people were communicating with their children or their friends and family, who had urbanized and were working outside of the village. And then later on, of course, transferring money back and all of that exchange happening. And I think specifically with ChatGPT, we're seeing how, people are using the multimodal functionalities, with ChatGPT 4.0, just the ability to speak with it, to interact with it. And I think that is really the natural way how human beings should be interacting with technology. I mean, I think typing things out is not the most natural way, the way we interact with each other. It's more through oral, visual, really having that interaction. And I think that is the big difference that 4.0 has brought to how people are using the technology. And I think the fact that those, image, text, video, all of those features get unlocked with the newer models that you will see and have already seen come out. You will see how I think a lot of the communities which are underserved today will now suddenly be part of the digital ecosystem because they were struggling because of the literacy levels or education or just language. All of those barriers are going to very soon just drop because of the fact that the intelligence is just going to keep rising.
No, that's great. Thanks, Pragya, for that perspective. Indeed, technology is moving so fast. If you think about it, just 2 years ago, we didn't know this whole word generative AI, right? It's just come out of the blue. And things have moved so fast since then. So that brings us to one important thing. You cannot plan a 1-year roadmap here. You cannot plan a 5-year project here. You're talking in terms of experiments and pilots and launches. So would love to understand your perspective, Abhishek ji, from a national level. How do you experiment? When you think of running an experiment, do you try it at a block level? How do you experiment with policy? How do you experiment with technology? And especially around AI, right? Are there any experiments that you're running that you could share?
What I would say is that though this technology does seem to be grown very fast in the last 2 years, but it has been there around for long. AGI has suddenly kind of changed the way the thing is, and everybody now seems to be a user of AI because the product has become so ubiquitous, whether it's ChatGPT or if it's the Meta AI which is available on your WhatsApp. Almost everybody has become a user of AI. But when we look at actual application which can impact citizens at population scale, Jayesh sir spoke about the election application, but there are many more applications which can change the way we look at things. Samagra, Gaurav showed you the Bhashini application with Kisan Mitra. So ultimately we have to think of what are the applications that we can deploy, and we can deploy at scale. So the stage for experimentation, I would say, is over. We have seen too many POCs. We have seen POCs wherein AI can be used to diagnose tuberculosis, breast cancer, lung cancer, and diabetic retinopathy. For agriculture, we have several applications. But how does this become part and parcel of deployment at scale? And when we say at scale, if I have an AI-based application with which I can diagnose tuberculosis, can I deploy it in every community health center which has an X-ray machine but does not have specialist radiologists? So that will be the real challenge. So what we need to do, and what we are trying to do as part of the India AI mission, we launched the India AI Application Development Challenge just a week back on 13th of this month, wherein we have identified 5 key themes, 15 problem statements, cutting across agriculture, healthcare, assistive technologies, climate change, flood prediction, drought prediction, and also for building tools for governance, like the chatbots which was shown, whether for farmers, whether for education. So those are open for startups, and there the prize money is incidentally 1 crore for each of the problem statements. Around 15 problem statements, 5 themes, and all the startups who might be here will be willing to do that. But it's not only that we identify those solutions. We have a plan for at least scaling up 5 of them across India. So across all states, across all districts, across all blocks. So that would be the real value that we are looking at. So I would refrain from just going gaga over ChatGPT and trying to make poems and all, because that's ultimately those things are not going to make any impact, any real difference to a person's life. If I'm able to use AI to be an assistant for a farmer, so that he knows what fertilizer to use, what pesticides to use, or how much water he should put in for his crops, or we can help somebody, person living in a rural area, to use a voice command to find कि बच्चे को dysentery हुआ है, क्या करना चाहिए. जब हम Indian languages में, if we can build those tools and deploy at scale, that will be the real value. So that is what I am looking for in the next 1 year to.
Oh, excellent. No, that's very fascinating and motivating to hear. And going from experiment to scale at this point. Jayesh, what are some of the things that you are looking to scale at a state level, and where is it really affecting citizens? If you can give some examples.
No, why some? I can give many examples, but I'll kind of before coming to that, I'll pull a point from him. It also gives me a chance to take a commercial break. So you heard about the AI summit that we are hosting in Hyderabad. This is on 5th and 6th of September. No, but that is not the commercial break. The commercial break is that what is the theme that we have chosen for that conference? The theme of that conference is making AI work for everyone. See, even the message that we are trying to make it heard very loud and clear is that the days of pilots and POCs, now AI is potentially available for everyone. Whatever profession, whatever line of activity, whatever age group, whatever demographic cluster that you represent, there are tools and solutions and opportunities, and that is exactly what we are trying to demonstrate. We have identified 17 tracks, and of course, you know it, you are nodding your head, but you are a part of the organizing team. Yes. You know it very well, that we are using 17 different tracks to showcase different AI use cases, applications. So that is the point, that AI has gone way, way beyond. But since you asked me again to give examples, I'll give 2 other very interesting examples. So this particular example that I'm quoting about, in my opinion, can be truly a big contribution from India to the world. See, this is a global problem, which is of poaching. We all know that in wildlife sanctuaries in India, elsewhere, animals are mercilessly, brutally killed for, to extract some parts and all that. And obviously, forest areas are remote and they don't have connectivity and stuff like that. So we have developed a solution. Again, it was done through a challenge program which was run in the state. And the solution is like this. So we have tested it in a wildlife sanctuary in Adilabad in the state of Telangana. So normally all the forest reserves, they do have cameras to monitor poaching or anti-poaching. But obviously the poaching happens at odd hours and the cameras are somewhere, the control room is somewhere else. And by the time the people are alerted, the poaching unfortunately is already done and over with. So what the solution is that they have seen thousands and thousands of hours of footage to find out what kind of images are common. So they have found out that 9 kinds of animals are typically found roaming in that forest whose images get captured. So the algorithm is that if some 10th kind of picture is found, which is not of those 9 animals, it is of a 10th kind of an animal, then an alert will be sounded. So we don't have precise data, but at least anecdotally, the forest officials who man that forest reserve, they are very happy. Anecdotally, they are telling that their ability to handle these kind of poaching attacks and all has improved. So it will take a while for the solution to really stabilize. But once it stabilizes, I personally feel very proud about it, that we have been able to nurture it. And as I said, tomorrow this can be a very big contribution from India to the rest of the world. Yes. Another thing which we are working on, again, very early stages. See, again, it's a very important social issue. Drug menace. Lots of young people get addicted and etc. etc. So addiction doesn't happen overnight. It is not that today I was sober and tomorrow morning I suddenly became a drug addict. It progresses gradually. So there's a way of checking what are the symptoms, and people who are around you, your parents, your classroom, your classmates, etc., can actually tell that this person is showing signs. So we have created again a AI empowered tool, and people can run that tool for their children, for their classmates, etc. So again, these are early days, but again, the implementing agency, the Anti-Narcotics Bureau of Telangana, they have told us that they have been able to identify 30 odd children who are now going through counseling. Wow. And obviously, counseling will help them, they will get back to normal. But imagine if there was no such tool and nothing would have happened. 30 odd families would have been ruined. Because if someone is a drug addict in your family, it is not just that person, the whole family is impacted. So these are some of the things that we are working on. Absolutely. And as I said, these are areas of not just local or national kind of opportunities. This can open doors for global collaboration. Global
Absolutely. No, thank you so much.
So many of these things, so I'll end this by reiterating that many of these things will be showcased on the 5th and 6th in Hyderabad. And the registration site is open.
No, thank you so much, Jayesh. I love the way you explain these examples, ton of them, and these are real, right? These are hitting the ground. These are not just some cooked up examples that we are going to use on the computer. These are really real world examples. And you mentioned about, taking this global, and that brings me to the point about how do we create reusable digital public goods, digital public infrastructure around this. And how do you create these things? Metesh, I'd like you to direct this at you. You've been working on ONDC and then the PAN infrastructure and so on. Especially ONDC, right? Hosting a digital public good and saying, here is infrastructure for India to host anything in ONDC. Are you seeing any early signs of what could be the AI manifestation of it? Right? What is the AI equivalent of DPIs? What do people need? Is it models? Is it data centers? Is it any constructs?
Yeah, I believe every part of it, right? And very much to the India AI mission also, right? We have been part of the community working on how the compute can be available, how the energy can be available over network, how the models can be trained. I was taking these learnings, and I was in a very different country where they were saying while India is very big, the talent is huge. We are a smaller country, right? We want to create a sandbox where globally, the whole globe can help us build these models for my country, right? And it was very interesting use case. While India has METI running the program, states running the program, as sir is saying, these smaller countries don't have. That's where we are, taking the learning. So that's one part.
Okay.
And second, more so is, I'll take the Bhashini example, right? Bhashini as a mission, I was amazed when I first heard and learned about Bhasha Dan, right?
Yes.
That's the best way. I guess, the whole community has to come together in different shape format to and I remember PM Modi talking in GPI event, right? AI will need AI, right? How to scale this, right? So that's where we are seeing. On the ONDC part, where we did a very small, again, an experiment at an early stage. How do we onboard the last mile, artisans at different? So we ran this in Rajasthan, we ran this in Kerala, right? How these artisans can actually take their produce and make them available on the ONDC network. So cutting all commissions from, all the e-com websites and others. And while that was the problem statement given by, again, ONDC and others, I guess the technology was of the essence, right? How these things can be explained in their local languages, how they can interact daily in their local languages. We also used AI eventually, to create a catalog of their items just by clicking the photos, and most of the items are first described, or the SKUs are created in their local language, and they edit it and then in English, so that it's run on the network. So that's where we are seeing on the ONDC side.
Okay. So it's more like it's in the background. It's baked into existing stuff as opposed to being a thing on its own.
Correct. Yeah. And then last year we also launched Honest, which was open network for education scaling transactions. Now where we are saying, so now today, as of today, these two networks talk to each other. So both these networks and both their registries talk to each other. What we are saying is, how these learnings from Honest, so somebody, maybe Samagra can create learning videos on how to scale, put it on Honest network, that can be made on ONDC network while the artisans are onboarding themselves. So this is the network effect we are seeing. We are creating multiple of these networks. Again, in ONDC, we are trying to experiment with blockchain technologies on rating and genuineness, so that the whole ecosystem, whether you are a customer, whether you are the network participant, are all safe, and the transactions are taken care that way.
Okay.
So this is where we are seeing the whole network coming together.
Nice. And no, good to see that perspective of how you're thinking. Not just reusable digital public goods and infrastructure, but also taking it to a network level where interoperability and data sharing and all of this happen in the right ways. As we think about this, let me direct this to Pragya. As you go into different countries, right, and as a technologist in a private sector, and this would be a challenge that every company would face, which is how do you train a model if you don't have data? And for countries like India and others, there's so many initiatives that the government is trying to run, but what are things that technology companies are doing to kind of make sure that the right data is getting created, available, and so on?
No, I think that's a super exciting opportunity, and I think just at OpenAI we're very deeply committed to making sure that history and culture is not lost when you talk about building AGI. And I think many of our cultures, including India, is a very oral language. And what is it that we can do to make sure that as AGI and as AI keeps getting smarter and better, that we're not losing some of the cultural nuances, the historical stories and things like that. And so we're working with, many, I would say, Indian agencies to make sure that we're capturing that. And, I think our main goal is, we want to be able to build AI in India, for India, with India, for the world. And I think that's what we're already doing. And, I agree with Abhishek ji where he says that, there's a lot of hoo-ha about GPT, which is true. But I think now we're seeing it unlock value in India. Specifically, if I can talk about agriculture, where we have digital green, which is already serving thousands of farmers. You're aware of that in UP, Bihar, and other parts of India. And there we really saw, to your point on can we build videos and allow them to onboard. But then where is that bridge where if somebody is trying to reach that from a very feature phone-like kind of place, how can I access that video? And that's how we're bridging the gap with Digital Green, where they have all these resources in the back end with videos and insights and researchers sitting on the other side saying, if I take a picture today in my farm and say, this is what the leaf is looking like and it's turning yellow, what is it that I need to do? And you get that feedback or you get that advice, over a text message, over a call. Again, you know all of this, but I think it's important to really say that it's not about just the GPT or the front end of what you see, but the value that it's creating even in the back end of consolidating information. Or it could be even in healthcare where we have MENA Health, again, another non-profit which is looking at specifically women's health and hygiene and sexual health, where you can ask questions because it's something which is very private. And you can't talk to your family. Often in our situations when women go to a gynecologist, it's almost like the whole family comes along. So you can't even ask the very private questions that you would like to, and so it gives it the safe space to ask these questions. And I think thirdly, just even if I talk about mental health, which again was mentioned earlier, there are non-profits in India which are doing work around mental health, where ChatGPT is becoming at least the early sort of model where you can talk to and get inputs and feedback. And of course, we always talk about the fact that this is not medical advice and you should go to a doctor to get your advice. But in the initial stages, just to have a conversation and just to do that, I think already we can see AI in play. And the reason I talk about how this is important for building for the world is that somebody like Digital Green is now taking a lot of these learnings and taking it to Africa, taking it to other developing countries, and actually making sure that a lot of these solutions are also serving others around the world. And I would say more generally, the kind of solutions we are seeing coming out of India, when we compare it to the rest of the world, are far superior, far cutting edge. And that's simply because, we have a lot of problems to solve. And they are very unique. And they the complexity of those problems are such that if we can come around those in India, very often they fit very well in other parts of the world. And I think, just the last piece where, we had a roundtable recently and we were talking about the solutions that we have. And I think the other piece that AI is seeing and is bridging is around accessibility, right? People who are visually impaired or have, hearing challenges, all of those are areas where we are seeing, again, AI bridging that gap and allowing them to participate in an ecosystem which they felt extremely alienated from, and now they have the ability to step in and participate.
Excellent, excellent. No, I think that's a very good perspective. I love the fact that you said it needs to be built by India, for India, and in India, right? That's a very important takeaway. I'm going to move on to some audience questions. So thanks for those who sent in these questions right now. I'm going to direct this first question to you, Abhishek ji. The question is, panel speaking about incredible AI use cases, but what are the views on improving governance from a lens of bureaucratic efficiency through whether it is performance monitoring, other measures? You've been the CEO of Karma Yogi as well and really led one of the largest skilling things across levels in the government. Where do you see AI's role in that?
See, first and foremost, for learning, for Karam Yogi, in fact, what we are doing was that using AI for recommending courses, which are very basic use course. Like if somebody is working in a particular domain, suppose somebody is working in Ministry of Commerce and his domain is trade policy, so depending on his role profile and all, he will be recommended courses that he should know. He should know negotiations, he should know trade policy, he should know, do case studies on that. So that was one use case. Over and above, there is a whole thing that the government, most of our decision making in the government, many of you who are familiar with, happens on the basis of existing laws, existing regulations, existing processes, precedents, and data which is there for if you have to decide on anything. And very often the same matter moves on a file, EOE file now, but it takes a lot of time to decide that. But most of the decisions, like 80% of decisions, come out in the routine decision making process. Because there is some application to be considered, and based on certain rules, you have to come to a decision. Yeah. So these are ideal applications for an AI-based application. Like what a government officer does in many cases, for example, sanctioning loans or sanctioning grants or sanctioning scholarships, many of it can be easily be done with an AI-based tool wherein it can easily not only kind of expedite the decision-making process, but remove away all the discrepancies which come in. Okay. The discretion which comes in, all of it can be done. Yeah. The second thing that we are working on with several ministries is like when we are if we are able to interlink various databases. Like for example, Ministry of Rural Development implements a scheme called MNRGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, under which poor people get wages for 300 days, and they are real poor people who are doing that. Then Ministry of Health implement the Ayushman Bharat Yojana, in which health insurance is given again to poor people. But unfortunately, people have to apply for both separately. Yeah. If we are able to link these databases, then there is no reason anyone who is a Manrega beneficiary should not also get an Ayushman Bharat health card. Similarly, scholarships. We have databases in which we know that post-matric scholarship is to be given to certain categories of students. Now these certificates, whether somebody is in SC, ST, EWS, or any category which is deserving of a scholarship, these certificates also be given by the government only. The education database, UDICE database, or and APAR ID database is there. Then why should we apply for a scholarship? Can scholarships not be given directly to people? Those who are deserving. The proactive delivery of services, entitlement based delivery of services so that people are able to get what they want can be a big use case. We also had the use case during COVID-19 when we built the chatbot on WhatsApp, the MyGov help desk that we had done. It became like a very simple tool for accessing information. Bhashini is doing this, and all these use cases are now coming in for various departments, like Kisan Mitra or Education Sahayak or something. In the information, the asymmetry that exists, people just don't know what to do, where to do. So that is also again going to be a use case in the government. Then another thing that we built in and especially rolled out is the address change. Like for example, you update your address in Aadhaar, then all databases, whether your PAN card or income tax, wherein you have the same address, then you should have the option of ticking it, and that's already live, by the way, on DigiLocker. You can update your address on all other databases just because your Aadhaar database is updated, based on a consent that can be done. So there are multiple use cases wherein simple applications of AI-based technologies can improve governance to a great level and make life easier for citizens and for businesses.
Super. No, thank you so much, Abhishek. That's just a wealth of different examples. In fact, some of them mostly new for most of the audience. So thank you so much for sharing. Jayesh, I'd like to direct this question to you in terms of, in a country where digital divide is still a reality, how do we see AI solving for any problem at scale, especially, law, education delivery, or any kind of bridging that gap or driving behavioral change at the citizen level for adoption? It's one thing building it, it's one thing conceptualizing it, but what are the things that you nudge as the state government to really drive that behavioral change and adoption at large scale?
Yeah, so this is something which we learned in a very direct way. See, many of you would know that while AI mission, etc., is of recent vintage, national government and many state governments have this flagship program called Digital India. Digital India was launched 10 years ago. Roughly simultaneously, we had announced Digital Telangana. And just to bring everyone up to speed, Digital India, Digital Telangana, they have a supply component. That is, you supply digital infrastructure. You lay optic fiber cable, you set up kiosks, you do Wi-Fi, telecom, enabled 4G, 5G, various attempts to provide digital infrastructure. And then digital literacy, which Abhishek used to look after, is one component from the demand side, like whatever infrastructure that you have created. So in Telangana also, we have this program called T-Fiber. We lay optic fiber cable right till every household. We have covered almost 80% of the state, and we are doing it village after village after village. So in initial days, the experience showed to us that, let us say, a village has been completely covered. Every home has been provided optic fiber cable connectivity, we would not notice any kind of excitement or joy. So it's like, let us say, as a farmer, as a simple villager, I went to bed today. When I woke up tomorrow, someone told, hey, there is optic fiber connectivity at your doorstep. I would not start jumping in joy and rushing to buy a smart tab or a phone. In fact, for 99% of the people, it won't even register. What is this connectivity? What is this fiber? So what we realized is that use that fiber connectivity, the digital bridges that you have built, to solve real problems which they have been facing for generations. And in Telangana, and as is true of many other states, agriculture is one area which supports the maximum rural livelihoods. So for the last 5-6 years, we have started doing that, identifying real challenges which people face, particularly small farmers, marginal farmers. They are not able to procure genuine seeds. They are not able to sow their or plow their soils, farms when it is the most optimum time to do. They are not able to take care of pests and diseases and all that. So if you are able to show that technology has solution with which you are grappling for years altogether, generations altogether, and the technology is easy to handle, easy to manage, language is not a barrier, language is not a challenge, then the buy-in comes very, very fast. And that is true for AI-enabled solutions as well.
Wonderful. No, thanks for that insight. Very powerful. Metesh, I'll direct this question at you. It says, why stop at compute and models available? Why not app frameworks? Why not reference implementations of citizen-facing apps, agent apps and systems, so that innovation can be faster? So have you attempted, so for example, at Samagra, this Bharat Sahayak is an attempt at that, right? A framework so that you can get long-tail AI going. Any things that you have tried out in your experiences at Protean?
No, so I exactly said, compute is the start part, right? You would need the processing power, and everything is above it, right? We need collaboration and the whole community coming together at each layer. And I guess the Bharat Sahayak thing is layer by layer. That's exactly what we are saying, right? Each can be whether it's model recipes, how we are written. Each can be opened up as a sandbox for people to further either use them to build use cases or power them with their models, or maybe custom model and push it out as we can be having our own Hugging Face. We don't know, right? India can have their own Hugging Face. That's one of the opportunity, right? Because as a country, we are way diverse, right? There are cultural, and as Pragya, you were saying, the culture should not be lost. Every state has a different culture. The languages changes, the custom changes. So I guess it's time we have our own custom Hugging Face for India at state level, so that we stitch the whole story together. And this is one of the learning, at what we are doing at Protean as well. How do you stitch all of these together? And I guess the future would be that agentic AI based super app, as Jayesh sir was also saying, how can we solve the farmer life, right? We attempted at GPI, we did a POC, one was the AI, the other was blockchain, these emerging technology, but at the same time using the combinatorial power of the DPIs that are available today. So we stitch Bhashini, Honest, ONDC all together. So as sir, you were saying, whether farmer needs to procure seeds or, sell his produce or maybe learn across the life cycle, as you were saying, whether the leaves are going yellow, how all these DPIs and emerging techs and other programs can come together. And I guess the combinatorial power exactly is super, and I guess the super apps are about to come.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, I just want to add to that, right? I think, in Digital Green, exactly what they're doing, which is taking advantage of all the mandi rates. They get the live mandi rates and then pick up on that, and then the farmer can decide really where to go and sell. And I think, as we are moving closer and closer to AGI, I think agentic models and AI or agents doing stuff on behalf of us is, I think, where we're going to be moving towards. So I think we're really very early in this journey, and I think there's a lot more to come, and hopefully, India is going to play a very critical and crucial part in that.
Great. No, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Abhishek ji, for making it, for this particular event. And thank you, Jayesh ji, from flying down from Hyderabad for this specifically. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Pragya. Thank you, Metesh. Your insights have been valuable in terms of seeing all perspectives of that puzzle. So thanks once again for making it to this panel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you to the panelists. As Pragya said, AI by India, for India, and with India. We have a small token for the panelists before leaving. And then I would like to invite Metesh, Chief Digital Officer, Protean. Who will be launching a product.
Maybe we can take the seats while Metesh does the launch.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for having us on the panel and such interesting questions. So, building on from the session, at Protean, we have been working and building DPIs for the nation. We have worked, early digitization from PAN cards to, NSDL. We were first NSDL. Now we separated out the tech arm. Then we got into, NPS, APY, and few others, right? And as recent as, building DPS for the nation in terms of ONDC, Honest, and furthermore, right? So with that experience, we thought, we need to go little further in terms of sustainability, and we thought it's a moral responsibility to build a platform which may have a future network effect on how to eventually discover the needs on the sustainable themes, right? And marry it with the CSR and other, investments, right? So here is, we'll be launching quickly a platform very soon where the whole life cycle of demand to fulfillment and eventually using all emerging tech of AI and blockchain to further validate that your investment has gone right, and so that the benefits are rolled out to the last mile, to the last village. So, I would, with your blessings and support, we'll be launching it here. And, I can ask the person to play the video. Thank you so much.
Life is a symphony, a delicate interplay of humans and nature. A masterpiece in the making, where every note counts, but the harmony is fading. Our planet, our home, is calling out. We've chased progress, built towering cities, and harnessed technology. But in our haste, we've forgotten the rhythm of the earth. It's time to rewrite the script, to embrace a future where growth and sustainability coexist, where technology is inclusive, not exclusive. We must sow the seeds of change, nurture a world where every action is a step towards regeneration, where compassion fuels innovation, where we develop an ecosystem that is not just advanced, but aligned, where we build technology that cares about life, bridges the sustainability gap, and maximizes impact. Presenting Protean Life, India's only all-in-one platform to streamline sustainability initiatives from inception to completion, bringing life to sustainability. Connect with us at talktous@proteantech.in to learn more.
Thank you so much. So I would request Palak and my team members that we have a short, more detailed presentation on this to take the all of you to the features of these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Metesh. Very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, panelists, for the amazing, insightful session. Before I kind of talk about Protean life, I think like Metesh mentioned, Protean's obsession with customer-centric and citizen-scale solutions has been through its legacy in agriculture, in finance, in e-commerce, and now that has encouraged us to kind of foray into sustainability domain as well. While as an organization we noticed few macro level challenges, such as limited CSR spends, limited partner discovery, identifying the right themes to invest in. What we have done is we've drilled down into challenges of providers and seekers, which is implementation partners, I would call them NGOs, as well as the funders, largely corporates. And some of the challenges which we identified was challenge of discoverability. How do I identify the right theme as a corporate to invest in? How do I find the right partner who I should invest in? Another challenge which we noticed was impact assessment. Once the funds are deployed, how do I monitor the project? How do I identify the milestones which will define the success parameters of the project? Considering various SDG goals, there are multiple compliances involved. How do I, as an organization, quickly kind of have everything in one place? I mean, some of the challenges which we also identified was, in any organization, people tend to kind of move on, right? Once a project is created, documents are created, it's very difficult to identify when this project happened, what is the auditory trail of that particular project and the documents related to it. And keeping some of these challenges in mind, we came together and identified features and core value proposition of Protean Life, which will define its offering. So some of the benefits are, with Protean Life, be it if you are an accreditation partner, be it you are a consulting firm, an NGO or a corporate, you can use this platform to find a right partner for you. You can easily create a project which can go through its entire life journey, right from inception to completion, like we heard earlier. We've also embedded a module which is specifically for fund transfer. Once we've identified the theme, once you've identified the partner, what do I do? The platform itself allows you to also do the fund transfer and get the ATG certificate there itself. Most importantly, the entire architecture of this platform is based on security and compliance with the relevant authorities. So without further much ado, what I'll do is I'll hand it over to Arif to walk you through two quick use cases, which will give you an insight from a corporate standpoint as well as from an NGO standpoint.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. What Palak just spoke about is the different set of challenges which are faced in this whole CSR ecosystem, both from a corporate point of view and from an IA point of view. Now, how are those challenges actually addressed as part of this platform? That's what we are looking at from an exact use case point of view. Let's take a use case. Let's say there's a corporate who are looking to do infrastructure spending. Let's say they want to set up toilets for truck drivers in some highways, right? That's the problem that they're trying to solve. Now, how does that get solved through this platform that Palak spoke about? So they can come to this platform, they can get onboarded from a corporate side. Once they get onboarded, they create a project saying this is what we are trying to do. Once that project is created, what happens is we have onboarded a lot of IAS on the other side. So this project becomes discoverable to all the IAS who have been onboarded, right? And IAS, the first problem which is getting solved is the discovery stage. Because if I was a corporate who was looking to solve this problem offline, I don't even have an idea who's working in this thematic area, who's working in this location. That is right now not available to the corporate. So that is the first problem that we are solving. So a corporate can float this project, IA can send a proposal. Once that proposal is sent by the IA, it is accepted by the corporate and the project execution happens. You can set all the milestones. Let's say the project is divided into 10 milestones. All those milestones can be tracked as part of this platform, can be delivered as part of the platform. And so once the project is closed, all the compliance related stuff, I mean, the certificates which are required are generated again as part of this platform. And even after that, I mean, if if a corporate wants to actually do an impact assessment study, if it actually created that impact on the ground or not, right? So there are impact assessment agencies which are onboarded onto this platform, right? So the whole end-to-end, from onboarding to project creation to discovery to execution to compliance and to impact assessment, those are the problems which this platform will solve for. So this is one of the use case. And the second use case is from an NGO perspective. Let's say there's an NGO or an implementing agency which has identified a need that they want to build, let's say, some ponds for 10 villages. Let's say they want to build 20 ponds in villages to cater to water problem that they have. Now they can create this as one of the project onto this platform. Once they create this project, this is again visible to the corporates who are there, who are onboarded onto this platform. They can express an interest. NGO says, okay, then it goes into the project management mode, project execution mode. After the project gets closed, there's the whole compliance and the impact assessment. So that's the second use case. I'll stop here. So essentially, like I said, end to end for all the stakeholders involved, be it a consulting firm, be it an NGO, be it a corporate, be it an impact assessment, any of the stakeholders, that's what we'll be solving through Protean Life platform. Yeah, that's the... Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Rahul and the panelists. Really appreciate all of you coming here. To the audience, please feel free to scan the QR code which is at the back of the agenda to share your feedback on the previous session. We will take a very short 4-minute break